Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. Welcome to our live Saturday question and answer class. I hope you find me. I started early and I had a difficulty with sound, so we're back again, starting over. Please feel free to leave your questions in the chat at any time, and you can also leave a comment and I'll get back to you with a video, resource, an answer, or more help. So at the start of class today, I want to talk about the word them and how we often will reduce the word them to more like M. So we'll talk about where we do this, how that sounds, and kind of some patterns for it. For example, in the phrase, give them to her, I'm likely to say this more as give them to her, give them to her. You hear I also reduce the word her to more of an give them to her, give them to her. That's normal everyday speech, not too casual. You can use that in all settings. It's okay to use give them to her, give them to her with all of the sounds, but you'll notice that native speakers do those reductions and drop those sounds. And so you can think about, if you think about this as give to her. That's basically how it sounds. Because as we link from to her, if we drop the H, then we need a little W glide coming in there to connect the oo to the to her. Give them to her, give them to her. And I wrote it as here, give them to her, give them to her. Because even though you'll see it written this way as M for the reduction of them, it really is more of a schwa and an M sound. Give them, give them, give them to her. So that's typically how that word them sounds when it's reduced. And then if I'm saying, for example, I need them, I can reduce that. I need them, I need them. So if I say I need them, that's a little bit more casual. That's because when them comes at the end of the sentence, I need them, it's the word that gets the stress. I need them. Or need may get the stress, I need them, because need is the verb, but because them is the last word, I'm a little less likely to reduce it in everyday speech. I need them. If I say I need them, it's a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more casual. So you can definitely say that as a native speaker, but in this case, when them comes at the end, you may want to use the full version of the word, I need them. Versus when I say I need them today, you hear how, again, I changed them to more of an I need them today. That's because in this sentence, today is going to get the stress because it comes at the end. It's a little bit more important. I need them today. And therefore, it's easier and more natural to reduce my them to more of an So give them to her or give them to her. I need them or I need them. And I need them today or I need them today. So there's no set rules for when we can reduce this. It's typically reduced when it's not the stressed word, which is oftentimes because little words like them or him are often not the important word, the pronoun. But when it comes at the end, it may tend to have a little more stress. We're less likely to reduce it there unless we're speaking more casually. So thank you for this request. I do cover reductions and linking how native speakers really talk in our Real Talk series and our Real Talk course online. I do have some videos here as well for connected speech and reductions. Just this week we talked about the word that and how that often gets reduced in different contexts, so you may want to go back to the channel to check that out. And you can ask questions about this topic or any topic at any time during class today. Feel free to put those in the chat and I'll answer them for you. Yes, so for many people listening to and hearing those connections, you're used to listening to them, but it may be less natural to use them. So you might want to practice in some short phrases like that, see how it feels, and try to speak quickly and naturally. Typically, if we're trying to make a reduction and thinking about it too much, it's a little less natural. So a great way to practice with that is to do something with some repeated phrases. So for example, you may want to try, you could do something along the lines of, with give 'em, for example, you could give them to blank. So think of it, first of all, think of it in your mind as give 'em, if that helps you. And then you can think of, you can fill in the blank here. So you could say give them to me, give them to yourself, give them to them, give them to us, give them to Sally, give them to Jane, give them to Mark, give them to the dog, give them to the cat. That way you get a lot of practice where the give them is not an important piece. It's getting repeated. You can hear that what comes in the blank, what's changing is where the stress goes. Give them to me, give them to the neighbor, give them to the president. That allows you to be more natural in repeating give them and getting used to using that reduction. So that's just a little tip that I would suggest for any time you're trying to use a reduction, that it'll feel more natural to practice it if you use a technique like that. Okay, let's turn to your questions. Feel free to ask about this topic, of course, other topics, word pronunciation, etc. We have a question about how to pronounce the word sure, and then also the letters E and, is that an I or an L at the beginning of words? Maybe it's an I, uppercase I. You can let me know. Okay, so we have a question about the word sure, which actually I don't usually typically say it that way. So some people say it as sure with an oo diphthong, sure with a tense oo sound, or we also pronounce it as sure. This is the symbol for the SH sound. It's kind of a tall, skinny S. Sure. I usually pronounce it as sure, like the beginning of shirt. So it just has the sound. Sure. I'm sure about that. Are you sure? But people will also say, are you sure? So you can use the oo, r diphthong, oor. This is just regional differences or dialect preferences. I think if you're stressing on it, I'm sure you have more time to use that clear vowel. If you're not stressing it, I'm sure we'll be there. I'm sure you may tend to use more of that sound, just the plain non-diphthong r. But both are acceptable in any context, and you'll hear native speakers using both. Okay, and then so for your clarification on I or L, it still looks like this in my typing. So I'm thinking that that's, it could be uppercase I or it could be L. Maybe tell me L as in lion or I as in ice cream. Okay, so if it's E and I at the start of words, depends on whether that the letter E or I is in the stressed syllable. So let's take a look at what I mean. So if I'm saying a word that starts with E, like eagle, then I'm going to have the E sound, because eagle, the E is stressed. Same thing if I'm saying ice cream, ice, I'm going to have the I diphthong. The I is stressed. That's the only syllable. I can also say, at the start of words, it can also say the I sound, like as in or it or influential. This is probably the most common for letter I, because it can be either a clear I like in, or if I'm saying influence is stressed on the first syllable as well. Let's say, for example, the word intent. I'm stressing on tent, but I still have the I sound here. It's just going to be a more reduced I sound versus the clear long I that's in or it's or etc., where it's the only vowel or the stressed vowel. So and then for E at the start, eagle, equal, it's going to have the E sound. If it's a word that has E at the start that's not stressed, it can also have like extra. There's no real clear pattern except that you're going to tend to have the I sound if it's unstressed. So thinking of, this doesn't start with E, but if we're looking at a word with RE, for example, like return or receive, where it's not stressed on that E, that's also going to be an I sound. Effect. Okay, here's an example that starts with E, stressed on the second syllable. Effect. You may see it in the dictionary as or as I. These are typically going to be reduced though, so I'm not going to be effect or effect, but rather effect with a shorter reduced sound. So the exact vowel may change depending on whether it's stressed or not. Typically though, when it comes to spelling and sounds, it's really helpful to have a dictionary that you know how to read the symbols and that you have some example words. So for example, for I think about that as the white knight diphthong, the I sound. For I think of that as big and little. Having some words where you know what the sound is so that you can compare to it tends to be really helpful, because as you know, we can't look at the letter E or the letter I and know for sure what vowel sound it is. You can get help for all of the vowel sounds of English in my videos for vowels, as well as in our Sounds of English course. I'm going to walk you through the sounds, the spelling, anchor words, what the symbols are, how to use the dictionary, so you can really get a solid sense for how to understand vowel sounds and vowel spelling, because that is one of the tricky pieces for American English pronunciation. Hopefully that cleared up your question. If you have some specific words you'd like me to talk about, you can mention those as well. And of course, you can check out our additional videos for help with vowels. Okay, thank you. Great question. We have a question about doppelganger. He's heard the word doppelganger lately in the news, and he's wondering about in ganger, if there's a G sound there or not in doppelganger. So in German, Doppelganger, Doppelganger, sorry, not ganger, ganger, because it has the diphthong. In any case, this is an ng sound, and there's no G sound, not ganger. So unlike danger, which has the Dane, where the G says the J sound, danger, or finger, where we have the NG sound plus the G sound, finger. In doppelganger, ganger is just an NG sound, like same as in singer. Or a good one would be to think about hanger, doppelganger. Interesting word. Thank you for that request. You can get more help for letters NG and what they say, if they say the NG plus G, the ng, or the J sound, in my video for that, as well as in our Sounds of English course. I go through that spelling and those sounds. I also have lots of videos comparing words like hanger and hunger, finger and singer, etc. here on the channel. Okay. Great. So it was I as in ice cream. Yeah, that makes sense, talking about E and I. Okay, we have a question about the words momentum, wanted, and sentimental. So just now I said those with the T sound. And as I mentioned to you in your comments earlier, if I'm saying wanted, I can say it with the T, or in words with NT in the middle, we often can leave the T out. So I would just say wanted. In the US, this happens. I believe in Great Britain, they would typically say that T, wanted, rather than wanted. So that's a more typical American accent pattern. Also, India, they would say the T, wanted, sentimental, momentum. We would say wanted, sentimental, momentum. We would say both. Actually, in the US, we do a mix, and it's not consistent. It's not tied to a particular region of the US or a particular speaker. When I'm speaking, sometimes I say wanted, and sometimes I say wanted. So that's, you may find that there are some people who consistently use one or the other, but that's a US phenomenon as far as I know. Of course, there are many, many different dialects of English across Great Britain and across the world, India, etc. But a more typical pattern, if you're going to divide patterns, there are sort of typical US patterns versus typical British and Indian English patterns. Great. Okay. We have a question about the word quintessential. Again, another one with the T where I can say quintessential or quintessential. In this one, I would probably most typically say quintessential, just because I think quintessential sounds a little bit sloppy to my ear. I don't think there's any particular rule to that. Quintessential. So that would sound like quintessential. With the stress on the sen syllable, the IPA being quintessential. We may or may not see a schwa between the sh and the ul. I did write it here with letter U for you, but that's probably a syllabic L, quintessential, shul. I'm just going to move really quickly from the sh to the ul sound, quintessential. And then you also asked about in umpteen, whether or not you can omit that P sound. And yes, you can, umpteen. Just don't hold your M too long. So you don't want umpteen. What we typically do there is we have an unreleased P, umpteen, where that means that I'm definitely not going to say umpteen, where that P comes out, not umpteen, but umpteen, where I'm just going to make my M a little shorter because my and my P have the same lip position. I'm just going to stop the air and stop the sound so you can hear and recognize that that P sound is there, umpteen. I've told you umpteen times about that. Yeah, great questions. Thank you so much. So nice to see so many of you here today. Thank you for the great questions. And I will be, of course, going back through class later to take your comments. So those of you who are watching this as a replay, you can leave your questions in a comment. I'll get back to you with resources and answers to help you. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I will be back again tomorrow with our regular Word of the Day class. And next Saturday, we're having a special non-live class where I'll be covering a lot of requests that have come in recently. If you have something you'd like to see me cover in Saturday's class the following week, you can let me know. And of course, as always, do check out the many resources available for you on speechmodification.com. We have lots of free materials on our practice site, free online courses, and then of course some of our paid courses, all very inexpensive, with a lot of great resources for American English pronunciation and American accent. I'll be back again tomorrow with another Word of the Day, and then I'll see you again 2 weeks for our next live class. Thanks so much for being a part of class today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye everyone. Thanks for being here today, and hope to see you again soon.